What's going on, guys? Welcome to J Powell Music. I'm your host, J Powell. Of course, appreciate it always if you can subscribe to the channel. Would appreciate that. Hit the like button so they go around, so the videos go around the internet. And I listened to Kanye's Bully album that came out just this past weekend. I want to say it was Friday, if not before. I'm not sure the exact timeline. I just know that in the socials it was pulling up that the album came out, the latter half of last week. Um, and it's a very interesting. It's interesting seeing where he is musically now. On just for the sake of full disclosure, I'm specifically critiquing the music. I've had a prior video as far as for how I feel about Kanye West today. So this is specifically about Bully, the musicality for him, not what he's been doing in social media or tweeting. I don't condone any of that. But this is specifically his music. So just to be known, this album surprised me. I don't think a lot of people thought that we were going to get a softer, more emotional version of Kanye on this album, because the past few albums have been dark and dreary and kind of weird. I mean, not his best production as well when it comes to like Vultures 1 and 2. In my opinion, I think Vultures 2 has some better beats than Vultures 1 production wise, but it just didn't. It's not on my list for his best work. This is an interesting project. It's not bad. I'll be honest with you, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's pretty good actually, and it's very different from his usual works in a few ways. How he starts the album is a very interesting symbolism nature of where he's at. And for this album, just to kind of give a little bit of backstory, supposedly he produced this entirely himself. So it's kind of like back to the roots of him working on beats and him being a sole producer versus having a bunch of different producers and engineers and whatnot. But supposedly he did the entire album himself as far as from a production standpoint. He did have a few other writers. I thought it was interesting that the album cover is actually his son wearing a grill. I didn't know that, so I thought that was interesting. That was cool. But yeah, starting out with Preacher Man, you kind of get to deep dive into his original inspirations when it comes to soul music and whatnot. And I feel like we kind of forgot about that from these past prior works of Kanye, and it seems like that comes back. And he still has a lot of interesting creative ideas within his music that I think has been lost. And there's a very minimalistic take in a lot of these. Some of these I would arguably say aren't entirely finished, or they kind of feel like they're not finished. I'm also wondering if he's ever going to adjust these and re-upload it. Life of Pablo, I feel like was one of the first albums that he made where that album was constantly evolving over time. I remember he had the album out, he took it down, put new songs in there, uploaded it, took it down, took songs out. So it was like a whole thing. It was near like a year, I want to say, until he didn't make any more adjustments to the album. Obviously, he didn't do that album himself, but just in comparison to this, it's interesting to see how he's using his production today. Very minimalistic, like sample bass in him or vocals and sample. Very not the whole plethora, not the whole diaspora as far as heavy beats, vocals, samples, subsamples, features. So it's very minimalistic, and it's good. It's not a bad album. I wouldn't say it's his best. I would say it's better than Vultures 1 and 2. Is it better than Donda? I would say no. Is it better than Donda 2? Absolutely. But that also goes to show this is where Kanye's mind is at right now, at least musically, from what we know, right? He did this all in Japan, I believe, as well. So I think also him making this album, he was in a different place of possibly peace. I mean, I don't, I'm not sure when he exactly stopped finishing the album, like stopped making the album, and then started doing the crazy stuff that he was doing in social media. But and again, I said I would talk about the album. But as far as for, it seemed like he did this in a place of where he can really focus and apply what he's doing in his mind into the music. And you see a lot of, there's a lot of kind of cool spins and sample flips that he does within this. He even has one that's a Spanish song, a Mexican song, that he has a spin, does some vocal stuff on, which is kind of cool. But there's a very minimalistic take. I think my favorite songs on the album is Preacher Man. I want to say Circles, Take My Breath Away, and Melrose. I think Melrose is really good. It's probably the best song, I think, in my opinion. It's my favorite song, I should say. And Lil Yachty, it's funny. I think Lil Yachty he should be collabing a lot more with Lil Yachty. I know he's been doing stuff with I forget his name. Not Tyga. Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I think he should be doing some more collabs with Lil Yachty because I liked his contribution on this for Melrose. I thought it's a really solid feature that he did. And I really liked everything that he did for that song too. Part of me almost wishes that it kind of went to that full 808, hip hop, 80 BPM beat, but really great song. There's some good songs on here, but interesting, very minimal. Most of it is very minimalistic, kind of three different things, sample bass, standout bass, and vocals, and yeah, it was, it's funny because, like I said in the beginning, I don't think people expected this. I think people thought he was going to say a bunch of crazy stuff like he was saying online. And this is outside of my critique of the album. But you kind of get to the core as far as for how he feels. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I've listened to every single Kanye album, and I figured it wouldn't make sense to not listen to this. At least I know what the content is. So now that I know that the content of the album, it's musicality, it's music, and where he's in it is very interesting. I'm curious to see where he goes from here. Is he going to do more Vulture stuff? I hope not. Is he going to make, different projects or whatnot? I would like for him to work on more music where he's in control of the production, because like I said before, guys, his best albums that he made, he doesn't own those masters, right? That music is, it's the best music he's made, but he doesn't own any of it. And he's not a poor guy. He's got money. You know what I mean? So it just attests to the notion of, ownership is a thing, and I'm wondering how much of that affects him, so, but you're getting to the core as far as, regardless of what you say about him, and it could be valid. He's very talented. He has a talented ear, and when he's doing production and when he puts his all in, it's really good. And that's what people fell in love with Kanye, I should say. And then, but that kind of got lost in translation, and then Kanye didn't become Kanye anymore. So very interesting. Anyway, let me guys know what your thoughts are in the comments. Again, J Powell Music. Catch you guys next video. Thanks.